She's not family, that's why he sent her home. How could she say such a thing about my mother? That one's just a housekeeper. This is a family trip, right? Those without blood ties are strangers. She's probably tending to the fields I told her to buy now. My grandfather said too, laughing. My father and I were shocked. Cut the crap. What would happen after his shouting? My name is Hannah, and I'm 17 years old now. I live in the rural area, which is still common to have extended families living together. My friends' homes are the same, and of course, so is ours. My paternal grandparents, my parents, and I live together. Living together is one thing, but what comes with it is the constant harassment. Hey, Olivia, isn't the seasoning in today's meal a bit strong? Well, it might be just right for our son and grandchild, but it's a bit much for us old folks. Sorry about that. I thought I was being careful. Careful, huh? And it's still this salty? Are you trying to shorten our lives by feeding us all this salt? Right, it's common for wives to cold-heartedly bully us frail elderly. You know, the wife in the house next door also. Come on, it started again. My grandparents always find some way to make snide remarks to my mother, Olivia. It's always about something so unreasonable. Like today's dinner, it's not even that salty. Moreover, she's prepared separate portions for us and for the grandparents, seasoning them differently. I tried tasting it, and indeed, the elderly portion is bland. To me, the seasoning is far from enough. How can this be considered high in salt? Maybe it's better not to season it at all. Although my mother, who is used to it, just nodded along, I couldn't stand it and fought back. Grandpa, give it a rest. This is super lightly seasoned already. If you still think it's bland, why don't you taste your own sweat? A kid should be quiet. If Grandpa says it's too strong, then it's too strong. That's right. Hannah, you're just a kid, you wouldn't understand. For us elderly, it's quite strong. Your mother could make it lighter. That's why she's a bad wife. Hannah, make sure you don't turn out like her. Well, I love my mother's cooking. Unlike some tasteless old geezers. I'm in my rebellious phase, so there's no way I'm just going to take it and say okay. Catching a glimpse of my mother, she just hung her head, looking troubled, without retorting. She must have felt my gaze because she looked at me and gave me a weary smile. That tired smile pained my heart. It's not just about the cooking. Day in and day out, my grandparents always have something terrible to say to her. Like how she does the laundry wrong, or how her cleaning is not up to snuff. They even insist that leftovers are good enough for my mother's lunch, and that she should shower last. The list goes on. What era do they think this is? It's like something out of old drama series, these torments. The coldness my grandparents show my mother has another reason. It's because my parents keep their distance from my grandparents' peculiar faith. Instead of Christ, my grandparents worship Satan daily. They seem to blame my mother for my father, their son, being utterly indifferent to their faith. Their frequent saying is, "That one, Satan will drop into hell." My busy father is often away, and I come home late from the sports lessons. During that time, my housewife mother is left alone with my grandparents. Dad, Grandpa and Grandma were saying awful things to Mom again. They even suggested she's plotting something, saying the seasoning was strong when it was clearly bland. I reported to my father, who came home late at night. Honestly, I hate to bother my already tired father with such stories. But as his daughter, I just can't stay silent, can I? Man, happened again? Those two really are something. They don't realize that thanks to Olivia managing the house, they can enjoy their carefree retirement. It's all thanks to you too. I'm always grateful. Dear, it makes me happy to hear you say that. Hannah, you're such a good girl. No, I'm currently in my rebellious phase. It's just that my rebellion is aimed at my grandparents, so I'm less harsh on my parents. That's how much I dislike, or rather, detest my grandparents. Don't worry about it, Hannah. I'll talk to them. Just keep being on your mom's side, okay? My father said, patting my head, half irritated at being treated like a child, but also half pleased. Teenage emotions are complicated. One Sunday, I woke up late and lazily got out of bed, only to find my father arguing with grandmother. "Enough already, Mom!" My father's shouting voice snapped me to full alertness. Peeking into the living room, I saw my grandmother sitting on the sofa, looking grumpy. My father stood in front of her, and his face beat red with anger. "Making her work in the fields on such a cold day, what are you thinking?" he shouted. He is a regular office worker, but my grandparents are farmers, true to their rural roots. Though the size of their fields has greatly reduced due to old age. Field work? Is Grandpa doing it? Looking outside, I saw nothing but a white snowy landscape. The fields must be covered in snow. Is there something they're concerned about? When I was just thinking how dangerous it is for the elderly to work in the fields in such cold weather. "Oh, I'm starving. What's all this ruckus about? Where's Olivia? Isn't lunch ready yet?" My grandfather came in, scratching his belly. "Okay, he is here." "Wait, that means..." "Wait, don't tell me Mom's." My mother does indeed help out with my grandparents' farm work occasionally. But it's only during the harvest or busy times, generally, she doesn't. That's what I thought, but... That's exactly it. I asked Mom where Oliver went, and she wouldn't say, so when I pressed her, what's the need to do anything in such snow? Then she really went out. Oh my goodness. Well, managing the fields during winter is crucial. I know that. I'm asking if it's necessary in the snow. Snow repeatedly freezes and melts, messing up the soil. If you don't remove the snow, it'll be trouble in spring. Lies. I remember hearing that when snow covers the ground, it's best to leave it be. You deal with snow before it falls or after the ground thaws. Huh, is that so? Well, it's not the time to be impressed. Anyway, Dad, we need to get Mom quickly. Right, that was the point. Mom, let's talk later, okay? It's unbelievable that my mother has been working alone in such snow. Besides, it's starting to snow again. My father and I hurriedly put on our coats, boots, and dashed out of the house. She was there in the field. Exhaling white breath, her face red, she was shoveling snow. My father rushed over to her, and she gave a feeble smile. That smile again pained my heart. Why didn't I notice? While I was leisurely sleeping till noon, how many hours had she been shoveling snow? Being busy with work he brought home, my father hadn't noticed either and kept apologizing to the exhausted her. Sorry, Mom. Really sorry. That day, my grandmother got scolded by my angry father. You will be the one to fall into hell. After that, my grandparents were unusually quiet for a while. Seasons turned, and summer was approaching. The new term would start, and I would finally be in 12th grade. How about going on a trip? My father suggested. We have not traveled for a long time. After all, it's unlikely to go on family trips after high school graduation. Understanding the lonely feelings of a father, I pretended it was a hassle, but inside, I was excited. After all, parents pay for everything on family trips. There will be plenty of activities to do. Oh, that sounds nice. How about a beach? My rising spirits dropped at my grandmother's words. Wait, are you coming too? I regretted saying it immediately. Stepped on a landmine. What a terrible grandchild. Planning to leave us out. A kid like that, Satan will. She started, and eventually, Olivia. It's because of your poor upbringing that Hannah has grown into such an unthoughtful child. What a useless, no-good mother. She began taking it out on my mother. Hey! I might have said something wrong, but it's not fair to blame Mom for that. Oh, how sad for a grandma to have such a cold grandchild. It's all because Oliver didn't discipline properly. Woe is me. Seriously? Woe is me, she actually said that. Astonished, I decided to give some payback by saying out loud, Stop joking! However, she continued to fake cry, while my grandfather nodded in agreement. Seeing the chaotic situation, my father sighed and tried to settle things. All right. How about we go together? Instantly, my grandmother's face lit up with a smile. Despite the troublesome situation, I was also looking forward to the trip. The day arrived. Living in the countryside, the airport was far. After hours' drive, we still had plenty of time before the scheduled flight. It's been a while since I visited the airport, so I wandered off from my family. When I thought it was about time and returned, I saw my grandparents sitting on the waiting chairs. Looking around for my parents, my father came back, munching on something. Looks tasty, Dad. Yeah, this is really good. You were eating something in the car, right? But I was also hungry, so I asked for one. Olivia, you want it? Oh, where's she? With a snack in hand, my father looked around. Hannah, do you know where Mom is? Weren't you with her, Dad? No, she said she'd stay and watch the luggage. We said we'd go for a walk. Hey Grandpa, do you know where Mom is? His response was unclear. Grandma, was Mom here when you came back? Yes, she was. So she was here. Maybe she's in the restroom? But no matter how long we waited, she didn't return. I checked the restroom, but she wasn't there. Looking around, there was no sign of her. Finding it strange, my father said with looking troubled, "It's almost time for departure. Where could Olivia be? Is it time for boarding already? Then let's head over." Although my grandmother must have heard the conversation, she stood up without concern. Mom, we need to look for Olivia. She's not here, you know. What? Confused, my father tilted his head. I also looked at her. With a malicious smile, she said, "That one's not family. That's why I sent her home." What the hell? My father was shocked, and then my grandfather said with a laugh, "She's just a housekeeper. This is a family trip, right? A wife without blood ties is a stranger. She's probably doing the fieldwork I ordered by now." What freaking are you saying? We were just stunned, whereas they were laughing, unconcerned. Not family. What's that about? Mom's not family, then what is she? What's that? Cut the crap. Olivia is my precious wife. Wife or not, a stranger is a stranger. She's the bad stranger who ensnared our dear son. Right, I never liked her from the start. That's why I disciplined her. A stranger, not working, just squatting in our house, she should at least do some farm work. Let's say, what was it? Right, a neat. Just like a neat. They were chuckling with a vulgar laugh. I was so furious, and my vision turned red. I was about to say something when my father, quicker than me, stood in front of my grandparents and shouted, "Don't mess with me." Yikes! My father's voice echoed throughout the space. In the busy and crowded place, his voice resonated surprisingly far. Without caring about other passengers who stopped in their tracks, wondering what was going on, he continued to yell, "Always just harassing Olivia with your petty torments. You think I don't know anything? I know it all. Yes, I always tattle. And just when I thought you reflected on that snow incident, you pull this childish stunt. What's so fun about this? Ryan, we were just trying to educate that woman for your sake. What education could you vile people possibly give? It should be you who needs to be educated." Ryan, how dare you speak to your parents like that? Dad, you said Olivia was a stranger, right? She is my precious wife. My beloved wife. The most important family to me. You say that my family member, Olivia, is not your family, that she's a stranger. Then I'm a stranger too. You two and I are strangers. Ryan, what are you saying? What am I saying? That's my line. Do you even realize what you're saying, what you're doing? My grandparents' faces got paled at his fury. I had never seen him so angry. It must have been the same for my grandparents. My grandmother looked like she might burst into tears any moment. However, my grandfather gave a wry smile at my father's state. It infuriated me even more to see him laugh it off. Listen, Ryan. Calm down. He seemed to want to somehow control his son, to maintain his dignity as a father. Anyway, we're running out of time. Let's just have Olivia give up this time. And, well, let's just go, just us. The gate close is almost here. And we don't want to waste the cancellation fee for the hotel we booked. What? Wait, what is he even saying? Expecting Mom to give up this time? Whose fault does he think this is? Whose fault do you think this is? My inner thoughts and my father's shout coincidentally overlapped. My grandfather let out a startled yelp. That's enough. If you want to go, then just go on your own. No, you guys were supposed to come too. Oh, I'm not family either, so it's fine. Hannah. As I casually responded, her face showed shock. What? Did she think I would go along with them? As a daughter of a non-family mother, I am not family either. No way! You're family! You have a blood connection. My bond with my mother is stronger. At a loss for words, my grandparents could only snort in response. I turned to my father. Let's go home, Dad. Mom is waiting. Yeah, that's right. I'll call her soon after. Okay, let's do that. Carrying our bags, we headed for the exit, followed by my flustered grandmother. Hey, wait! What about us? What's going to happen to our trip? That's not our problem. Go on your own. And preferably, don't come back. What about the money? If you want to go, pay for it yourselves. No way! Her voice echoed around us. My grandfather stood dumbfounded. Leaving them behind, we headed home, where my mother was waiting. She was seemingly happy, perhaps because we had called from the car, but I didn't miss it. Her eyes were red. There were traces of tears. Those two, I'll never forgive them. Hey, Dad, I've been thinking. That's a coincidence, so have I. While hugging my mother, I spoke to my father, and sensed him nodding in agreement. That night, my grandparents, having few money for the trip, returned home huffing and puffing. They could have taken a taxi by promising to pay upon arrival or borrowed money from a police station near the station to take the bus. But they didn't even know or understand such things. That's just like them. I guess it served as a good punishment. At first, they were extremely apologetic, but in front of my mother, they began to grow bolder again. We did nothing wrong. That woman is to blame. But my father had enough. That's it. We're finding a new house and moving out. We're cutting ties. I don't care about your old age. He made an unexpected declaration. My grandparents were pale, but his determination didn't waver. He temporarily moved my mother and me to a hotel and hurried to find a new house. He found a good property convenient for his commute and my school. Dad, you are so reliable. Then, on moving day, please, we apologize for everything up to now. Don't abandon us. My grandmother was begging, crying. What are we supposed to do if you two leave us? My grandfather was nearly in tears. I don't care. With a dismissive tone, my father left the grandparents in despair. Olivia, please. We're sorry for everything. We won't do it again. We'll recognize you as family. So let's go back to how things were, okay? Astonishingly, to whom Grandma pleaded was my mother. After all the terrible things they've done, how conveniently self-serving. Feeling disgusted, I saw my mother take my grandmother's hand. With a bright smile on my mother's face, just as her face lit up in response, my mother said, "Judgment from the grand white throne." Huh? Satan sees all the anger in this world. What are you talking about? The day to kneel before Satan is near. You'd better prepare your excuses. I hope you make it to heaven. Wait, hey, wait. Goodbye. Leaving the speechless grandparents behind, we got into the car. As we drove away from their house, I glanced back once to see them standing there, dumbfounded. They were getting further and further away, and I realized that might be the last time I see them. Inside the car, heading to a new beginning, as I chuckled at the passing scenery, my mother looked at me curiously. What's up? Well, just feeling a bit envious. Of what? Of Dad. He said, my precious wife, my beloved spouse, the most important family member to me. Really? Hannah! What are you spilling? Oh my, still so lovey-dovey after all these years. Really makes one envious. Come on, no kidding. My mother, blushing, lightly tapped my head. It didn't hurt, but I pretended it did and rubbed my head, then added, I wish I could have a boyfriend like Dad soon. Right after that. A boyfriend! His pained cry echoed through the car, holding the steering wheel. There is no seat of mine! Olivia, oh, your seat? I cancelled it. Ava! Today is the wedding ceremony of my dear brother, Jack. Me, his real sister, not having a seat at the groom's side is unthinkable. What do you mean by cancelled? Oh dear. I mean exactly what I said. Your seat isn't here anymore. Laughing almost cartoonishly, adorned with numerous necklaces and bracelets, is Ava, the bride's mom. To me, she's just my sister-in-law's mom, not someone I usually interact with much. But, as it turns out, Ava and I have a bit of history. I'm Olivia, a 25-year-old singer. Since childhood, I've pursued my dream, enduring hardships and disappointments, but 3 years ago, I passed a crucial audition. That led to hit songs, and now I'm busy with solo concerts and TV appearances. I met my husband, Michael, at work, and we married a year ago. Both my professional and personal life are thriving. It's all thanks to the support of my family. Especially my brother, Jack, who's always been here for me. He had been claiming to me as, I'm your first fan since my debut. However, in the entertainment industry, I sometimes face criticism for being frivolous or chasing dreams endlessly. When Jack's marriage was decided, my biggest concern was exactly this. I worried if Jack would be badmouthed by his wife's family because of my career, but Mary and Ava, his wife and mother-in-law, smiled and supported my work. I was so happy with that, yet I never imagined today's wedding turning out like this. Come on, how long will you stand there? You're obstructing the other guests. Please leave quickly. What are you talking about? Today is my brother's important wedding. I'm definitely attending. How many times do I have to tell you? You don't have a seat. Just go home immediately. Then, a staff member from the venue, seemingly unable to watch any longer, came to help. If there's been a mistake, we can arrange a seat for you. What would you like to? It's fine. Today is my daughter's wedding. The presence of someone like her would only lower the grade of the ceremony. No need for unnecessary interference. What do you mean by that? Don't you get it? I don't want someone with a frivolous job like yours in my family. I cannot let that comment go. Please retract it. Where did I go wrong? I'm proud of my job. Just because you're a bit famous, you act so high and mighty. You're just a one-hit wonder, aren't you? You'll fade away soon enough. I was so stunned by her words that I fell silent. My husband Michael, perhaps out of anger, had gone pale and was glaring at Ava. Was Ava really so pleased with our situation? She dramatically spread her arms wide with a triumphant look. Her heavy bracelets clanged loudly. If you really want to attend badly, there's one condition. If you can meet it, you're welcome at the wedding. All right, let's hear it for now. Though I was thinking, what kind of condition? I prepared to listen. Ava's face twisted into an even more satisfied, mocking smile. Quit your singing career. Then, I'll allow you to attend. I couldn't help but raise my voice at Ava's outrageous suggestion. Ava snorted arrogantly. Her expression seemed to say, there's no way you could do that. She knew I couldn't accept such a condition and seemed to enjoy seeing me struggle. You can't do it, can you? You always put yourself first. Your job is more important to you than your own brother, isn't it? Such a selfish and detestable woman. There's no place for you here. Just leave. Shocked by her cruel words, my husband Michael started to retort, but I pulled his arm to stop him. Michael looked at me unhappily, but I shook my head slightly and then faced Ava squarely. Understood. Then, we'll leave here. What? Michael, let's go. Wait a minute. This is your own brother's wedding, are you sure? Ava seemed panicked as I began to leave the venue, was saying nonsensical things. My reaction must have been quite different from what Ava had expected. Perhaps she thought I would be crying, begging, "Please let me attend the ceremony." Right after leaving the venue, I heard Ava's screeching voice. "How insolent!" But I didn't stop. As I walked down the corridor, I heard someone calling my name from behind. Turning around, I saw Jack running towards me, looking frantic. "Sis, I heard everything. This is unbelievable, truly unacceptable." "Jack, calm down a bit." "How can I stay calm in this situation?" Michael and I had to soothe an agitated Jack together. Once he calmed down a bit, I took a deep breath and faced him. "I'm sorry, Jack. I didn't mean to cause trouble on your special day. This isn't something you should apologize for, sis." But why would Ava say something like that? Well, anyway, now things happened like this. I'm calling off the wedding. Then it's my turn to be surprised. "What? Wait a minute. That's too much." I can't have a wedding feeling like this. "But what about Mary?" "I'm fine with it." Surprised by the unexpected voice, I turned to see Mary standing there. Dressed in a beautiful white wedding gown, Mary looked like a fairy, but her face was clouded with sadness. This pained my heart even more. I'm sorry that my mom's behavior. I don't understand why she did that. It's not Mary's fault. But I can't go on with the wedding knowing I've caused you such distress. We'll explain it to the guests. So, sis, don't worry about it. All right. But don't push yourselves too hard. Sis, I'm sorry. I'll come and apologize properly later. I'm very sorry. Mary. Tears streamed down Mary's face as she apologized repeatedly, and I felt like crying too. What should have been the happiest day of her life was ruined. This made me even angrier at Ava. But there was nothing more we could do there. Michael and I left the venue with feeling terrible. According to Jack, who called me that night. When Ava heard the wedding was cancelled, she was furious. Seemingly oblivious that she was the cause, although she ranted about the preparations and the money spent. However, an angry, tearful Mary and Ava's husband, now aware of the situation, scolded her, and she reluctantly backed down. Jack and Mary told the guests that a family member had fallen ill as an apology. Not revealing the truth was probably their way of showing some mercy to Ava. Thinking of their feelings, I felt deeply saddened. How did things end up like this? While Jack and Mary's support was comforting, but I couldn't help feeling down, blaming myself for being a singer. A week later, Michael and I visited Jack's house. We had received a call from Jack and Mary, who wanted Ava to join them in making a formal apology. They should be the ones coming to our house. Ava absolutely refuses to do that. Are they really sorry then? I think so too, but considering Jack and Mary's feelings. I didn't want to see Ava, but after hearing Jack and Mary's earnest apologies on the phone, I couldn't refuse. Besides, I had something important to resolve. Sis, sorry for bothering you today. Mom, come on, greet them properly. They apologized repeatedly as we arrived. Ava, looking displeased, merely muttered, "Oh, hello." Seeing this, an almost tearful Mary scolded her. I was beyond anger, so already wanting to leave, but I didn't. Because Jack urged, "Please come in." Michael and I sat down, opposite side was Jack and Mary, with Ava also seated. It's about. Mary began. I wanted to be a singer. It's embarrassing now. There's nothing embarrassing about it. Mary has more talent than anyone. Mom, please be quiet. As you can see, she was more enthusiastic about me becoming a singer than I was. Singing is the perfect career for Mary. Please, just be quiet. Ava, about to start shouting, was silenced by Mary's firm words. Of course, singing was my dream too. But as I realized there were better singers out there, my desire faded. Yet, Mom insisted I become a singer. So, 3 years ago, in my graduation year, I promised the audition I took that would be my last. If I passed, I'd pursue singing, but if I failed, I'd give up. And I failed. It wasn't just a failure. You made it to the final round. You were almost successful. As Ava exclaimed, I was intrigued by the audition 3 years ago. It was the same audition that kick-started my career as a singer. I had a suspicion. Mary, was that the audition? Yes. The same one Olivia passed. I participated too. I hadn't realized it at all. You only care about yourself, don't you? Such an unpleasant woman. Mary, with tears in her eyes, reproached Ava, who spat out her words with vehemence. As I watched the two of them, I finally felt a sense of understanding. Hearing Mary's story, Ava's past behavior finally made sense to me. And seeing Ava's attitude now, I decided to go through with the decision I had secretly made. I finally understand, Ava. Oh, what's with that look? How insolent. Honestly, I wasn't sure whether to say this or not. After all, you're Jack's mother-in-law. I didn't want to make a fuss. What do you mean? Ava, you've been saying it all along, haven't you? To introduce Mary for a singing job or to refer her to my agency. Eh? Mom, you said that? That was just small talk. Even for small talk, it felt like big pressure. You became more aggressive when I didn't take you seriously, and recently, you even threatened to sell my private photos to a tabloid if I didn't introduce her. Hey, that's practically threatening. Jack, enraged, leaned forward, but I gestured for him to stay calm. Next to him, Mary opened and closed her mouth in disbelief. She might have been too shocked to find words, not expecting her own mom to do such things. I felt a bit guilty, but I couldn't stop now. The incident at the wedding ceremony, was it your way of getting back at me because things didn't go your way? Mom, did you really do such a terrible thing? That is. You coward. Bringing this up in front of Mary. I knew Ava didn't want Mary to know about her actions. Mary would be hurt if she found out. That's why I had been hesitant to say anything. But I had explained the situation to Michael, then he nodded slightly at me from beside of me. Ava was ignoring Mary's attempts to stop her, approached me, veins throbbing on her temples. Let me make it clear. Mary has far more potential as a singer than you. If it weren't for you, she would have passed the audition. She could have been a singer, even a star. I let her marry into a less impressive family, thinking it might lead to a singing opportunity for her. How dare you take advantage of my kindness? Ava's intensity silenced not just me, but Jack and even Mary. As we stood there stunned, Ava continued her irrational tirade. You probably used some dirty tricks to pass that audition, didn't you? Bribe the judges, maybe even seduce them. You seem like the type of doing that really well. Even now, who knows what you're doing to get work? Mom, please stop! Mary's tearful plea seemed unheard by Ava. I was so overwhelmed, I didn't know whether to be angry or sad. Then, Michael spoke up. Olivia passed the audition on her merit. Aren't you a sweet husband? But your wife's popularity is just a fluke. Likewise, Mary failing the audition was a matter of merit. Michael's firm tone even caught Ava off guard. I remember that audition 3 years ago well. All the finalists were closely matched in talent. But Olivia had the strongest determination to become a singer. What right do you have to say that? You're not even involved. I am involved. Huh? I was a judge at that audition. I'm Michael, a music producer. Michael, the famous music producer Michael? Michael is known as a famous music producer whose works are all hits. Even those not well-versed in music have likely heard his name. He seldom appears in the media, so his face isn't widely recognized. That's why it's understandable that Ava hadn't recognized him. Ava blinked in surprise for a while, but then approached Michael with a sly smile. I had no idea that you were the famous Michael. You should have told me sooner. What would you have done if I had? Of course, I would have introduced Mary to you. She's a diamond in the rough. With your help, Michael, she could become a star singer. Enough, Mom. Do you even know what you're saying? Be quiet. I will make Mary a singer, no matter what. Stop it, please. Mary yelled with a voice that sounded to shake the room, tears streaming down her face as she glared at Ava. Her face was red with anger, fists clenched tightly, clearly furious from the bottom of her heart. In conclusion, Mom just wanted to make me a singer for her own vanity and desires. That's the worst. How can you say such things to your mother? A parent's dream is their child's dream. Children have a duty to fulfill their parents' dreams. Don't you understand that? I gave birth to a child with a talent for singing, just for this. Don't talk nonsense. The one talking nonsense is you. You could have been rich and famous. What a disappointment. That's it. I've had enough. I'm cutting ties with you, Mom. What? Are you out of your mind? From this moment, you are a stranger to me. Please leave. Mary, don't joke around like that. Get out. Mary, with a strength that belied her slender arms, pulled Ava and pushed her outside the door. Ava, having been thrown out, angrily pounded on the door. When Mary threatened to call the police if she didn't quiet down, Ava's anger turned to tears and pleading. Mary, why are you doing this to me? I've always done everything for you. Still saying that. Apologize to Olivia, you shameless woman. Watching Mary shout pained to me, but I was glad she stood by me to the end. I secretly decided that if Jack and Mary would have another wedding, I will definitely support them. 3 months after the incident with Ava. Ava, disowned by Mary, was also divorced and kicked out of her home by her husband. It was discovered that she had secretly incurred debts in her efforts to make Mary a singer. She faced claims for damages to her family and me, as well as the wedding cancellation fees, which further increased her debts. Now, she's living modestly, working part-time to repay her debts. Having been a housewife for so long, it's been tough for Ava to work outside. She frequently contacts Mary, saying, "We're family, after all." But Mary firmly rejects her each time. This experience taught me that being a well-known name can unexpectedly attract resentment. Although having achieved my dream, I consider myself fortunate and will continue to work hard as a singer. The compensation money from Ava was given to Jack and Mary, which they used for their rescheduled wedding. Seeing them finally happy was a great joy for me. This is a high-end restaurant, a social gathering place for the winners. It's not a place for losers like you, a bottom-tier janitor. Time for you to leave. My sister-in-law Lily coldly spat these words at me, but she knew nothing about what was going to happen to her. Nor did I know. The way my husband thought me. My name is Madison, 30 years old, married to William, who is the same age, for half a year. With his gentle nature, William and I have never had a fight and live happily together. We met at the trading company where we previously worked. It wasn't a case of office romance leading to marriage though. At that time, I had a fiancé, also from the same company, with marriage just around the corner. However, due to his infidelity, the marriage was called off. And then, I felt uncomfortable at the company. I resigned after 4 years. I met William again 2 years later. Madison? William? Is that you? We bumped into each other after work by chance. It's been a while. Have you been well? Yeah, I've been doing fine. From that casual conversation, we started keeping in touch frequently and eventually began dating. His family's house is a famous local landlord with several businesses. Unaware that he was from a wealthy family, I was surprised the first time I visited his house. Could this really be your family home? Passing through a large gated entrance, a cobblestone path led to a mansion resembling a luxury hotel. On the other hand, I am a born and raised in a remote countryside girl, who is a daughter of an ordinary family, with my father working at the town hall and my mom running an inn. Our worlds were different. I thought we were mismatched. However, there was no need to worry. Actually, we were just talking about wanting to visit the town where your family lives. Right, honey? Yeah. We both love nature, so we're envious of you growing up in that kind of countryside. Wilson's parents, Lucy and Jack, were very warm. And they were simple in a good way. They warmly welcomed me as William's wife, and we maintained a good relationship even after marriage. However, there was one person who did not approve of the relationship. That was Lily, the wife of William's brother. She was childless and worked in the administrative department of the company run by Jack. Nice to meet you, I'm Lily. Let's get along well. She was a sophisticated woman, a perfect fit for the words beautiful hair, elegant and neat attire. Such a beautiful person. That was my first impression of her when I first visited William's house. She greeted me at the entrance along with his parents. Without being snobbish or too proud, she was kind. And she even exchanged contact information with me. Excuse me, Madison. I have plans and need to leave now. I'm sorry, but it's great to finally meet you. Maybe we can go to a cafe together next time. However, she had a hidden side. It came to light when she invited me to a cafe. Hey, Madison. I heard from Lucy that you're working as an airport janitor. Is that true? Yes, it is. What? Really? A college graduate working as a janitor? No way. I can't believe it. What was the point of paying for expensive tuition if you end up like this? Your parents from the countryside must feel sorry. She was so different from the elegant and kind Lily I knew, even her voice changed. I thought she was someone else. Indeed, I am a college graduate. So why did I, who worked in sales at a trading company, end up in a seemingly unrelated cleaning job? It was after my failed marriage and resignation from the company. I wonder if I should go back to the hometown. A concerned college friend invited me on a trip. There, at the airport, I admired the hardworking janitors. That simple reason was why I started. Even though I'm a college graduate, some people, like her, look down on my job as a janitor with prejudice. But I take pride in my work and love it. That's just a pretty lie. After all, it's nothing more than a bottom-tier job. She laughed mockingly, never accepting me as part of the family, and constantly belittled me after marriage. Currently, I work as a cleaning staff at a house cleaning company. This is because we moved near William's family house when he joined the company run by Jack. Initially, I considered working as a janitor at Jack's company, but I didn't want to inconvenience the employees. I aim to master my craft as a cleaning professional, regardless of the location. Now, I'm busy juggling work and household chores every day. Then one day, while William and I were visiting his family house. Hello! Lily arrived alone, with her usual high-pitched voice. But as usual, when we were alone in the kitchen, her voice dropped. Hey, Madison. Since you work in house cleaning, could you clean my house? Your house? Yes. Of course, I won't ask you to do it for free. I'll pay you. With her arms crossed, she looked down at me condescendingly. What are you two chatting about so excitedly? As Lucy entered the kitchen, Lily dropped her crossed arms and lifted the corners of her mouth, and answered with a smile. Oh, Lucy. Actually, I was just learning about professional cleaning techniques from Madison. Really, I have so much to learn from her. All right, I knew it. The woman who changes her attitude depending on the person she's speaking to, effortlessly telling lies and using her chameleon-like voice. Then, Lucy looked at me as if to say, wow, that sounds very nice. Yes. If my knowledge can be of any help. I replied, to which Lily nodded in satisfaction. That's wonderful. It makes me happy to see the wives of my sons getting along. Let's have coffee together in the living room. Yes, Lucy. Following Lucy, Lily was like a clingy person. Someone who flatters the strong wasn't frightening to me. I wasn't just agreeing with her out of fear. I could handle her level of malice, and I knew that one day her true colors would show. Above all, I didn't want to cause unnecessary worry for William or his parents, so I never once complained about Lily. Lily bought a cake. Let's enjoy it together. One holiday, After receiving a call from Lucy, William and I visited his parents. Madison, this cake was supervised by a famous pastry chef. It's delicious, right? Yes, it's very good. As Lily and I were having a typical conversation. Shoot, I spilled it! William's brother Thomas panicked, spilling coffee on his white shirt. Then his wife Lily, sitting next to him, remarked, "Oh no, that's bad," and began to rub the stain on the shirt with a wet towel. Lily, maybe it's better not to rub it too much." "What?" Her usual unfriendly voice slipped out, surprising everyone. Then quickly switching to her high-pitched, gentle voice, she asked me, "Sorry? What did you say?" "Well, if it's okay, may I do the first aid? Stains get harder to remove over time." "Then, maybe I'll ask you to do it." "Yes, got it." "Then, Lucy, could I borrow a towel and a toothbrush, please?" As I was removing the stain from Thomas's shirt, Lucy commented while watching, "Madison, you really are skilled. Having a job in cleaning really shows, I'm impressed." Whereas Lily's reaction bothered me, but being acknowledged for my work made me happy. "What do you think you're doing?" That night, an irate Lily called without any greetings. "What? Lily? What is it?" "About what happened this afternoon. The stain removal. I know that much too, you know. Don't get carried away just because Lucy praised you a little. Just so you know, by doing a bottom-tier job, you're a nuisance who's lowering the family's status. I've never once thought of you as a sister-in-law." She ranted in one breath, Lily." As I tried to answer, she hung up. That left me stunned. Did she really need to call just to say that? "Madison, what's wrong? Did something happen with Lily?" Concerned, William asked. I couldn't keep silent anymore and told him everything about my issues with her. "I'm sorry, I didn't notice anything." He apologized, looking guilty. "It's okay. It's hard for a man to see through her acting skills." I replied with a laugh. 2 weeks later, William and I were headed to a fancy restaurant to celebrate Lucy's 60th birthday. I've reserved a private room at the restaurant for Lucy's 60th birthday celebration. Can you tell William? Thanks. Lily had contacted me 3 months earlier. It was a popular restaurant, typically requiring months for a reservation. I had been dreading meeting Lily, but it was Lucy's celebration. So I wanted to genuinely celebrate out of gratitude for her. We left home early and were the first to arrive. Just as we settled into the private room, Thomas and Lily arrived. "Hi, how are you guys?" "Fine. You two are early too." "Yes, but we just got here a little while ago." We exchanged pleasantries and chatted as a group. However, excuse me for a moment. William left the room to answer a phone call, and feeling awkward alone, Thomas also excused himself to the restroom. It was just Lily and me alone in the private room. Then, as if it's time to mention, Lily scrutinized me from head to toe and said, "Madison, your dress is lovely but unsuitable you. Which brand is it?" Her usual condescending tone started. I held back and forced a smile. "This dress was a gift from William, so I don't know the brand. But I love it regardless of the brand." "Oh, it was a gift. You two must be close." "But it's not just about wearing nice clothes, you know. Your hands are rough and your nails are short. You should at least go to a nail salon for proper care. No matter how much you try to act like a celebrity, it's obvious by looking at your hands that you're just a wannabe." "Excuse me, but I'm not trying to act like a celebrity. The reason my nails are short and my hands are rough is due to my job. Aren't your long nails inconvenient when doing housework?" "What? Are you saying I don't do housework?" "No, I didn't mean it that way." "Seriously, you're so annoying. Getting a little praise from Lucy and now you're all high and mighty. And daring to challenge me. I even don't know why Lucy would ever accept someone like you as a daughter-in-law." She was getting heated up, seemingly forgetting the reason for today's gathering. "You can say what you want about me, but please don't talk about Lucy like that. Today is her 60th birthday celebration. Please watch your words." "What? How dare you talk to me like that? You should be the one watching your words. Remember, this is a high-end restaurant, a gathering place for winners. It's not a place for losers like you, a bottom-tier janitor. Get out of here. No, I'm not leaving. Being a janitor is not a bottom-tier job. Saying that is disrespectful to other people working in cleaning. Take back what you just said. As I retorted that, then, Lily should leave. What? The door of the private room opened, and William walked in. Then Thomas, Jack, and Lucy also walked in and closed the door. Jack, Lucy! Lily looked shocked, probably realizing where she was and the purpose of the gathering. She opened her mouth but seemed unable to find the words to continue. Anyway, everyone, please have a seat. Usually gentle William spoke with undeniable authority, and everyone obeyed. Sorry to bring this up on Mom's 60th birthday celebration, but I need to talk about something first. Is that okay, Mom? Go ahead, dear. After receiving Lucy's permission, he turned to Lily, who gasped. So, Lily. What were you saying to Madison just now? Wow, my usually gentle husband can be pretty sharp when needed. Lily got flustered and replied, Well, I was just saying how nice Madison's dress is today. Then Lucy chimed in. My hearing must be getting bad lately. Did I just hear something about bottom tier? What? No, I was just saying that Madison's job is really hard, you know. Huh? Not bottom tier? It seemed like a stretch to me, and apparently, I wasn't the only one who thought so. Cold, piercing stares from everyone were directed at Lily. I couldn't help but be impressed by her attempt to regain her usual smiling demeanor. That's not funny at all, and this is no time to be laughing. I heard everything you said to her, all through this. Right, Madison? William indicated his mobile phone. Yes. What? What he referred to was the fact that he left the room earlier after I had discreetly called him and left the phone on. Therefore, everyone, including my in-laws, had heard the entire conversation with Lily. We had planned from the beginning to expose her true nature. That's terrible. You tricked me, didn't you? Now she was playing the tragic heroine, tears welling up in her eyes, but William said, Don't talk about being tricked. If there's nothing shameful, there's no problem in having a conversation overheard, right? That's... She struggled to find words, so William continued. Lily, you told Madison that this is a high-end restaurant, a gathering place for winners, not for losers like a bottom-tier janitor. But I've never once thought of my wife as a loser. I find her more attractive and respectable now, taking pride in her cleaning job, than when she worked at a trading company. I'm very happy to be married to her. Hearing William think, I was deeply moved by so highly of me for the first time. Besides, in the first place, I don't care if you're a winner or a loser. Those words don't matter. Are you happy now as a winner? Of course. But to me, you seem unhappy, only able to affirm her superiority by looking down on others. Happiness or unhappiness, winning or losing, the real battle is with oneself. That's what I believe. Lily, I don't think I'm a loser either. I followed up on William's words. Honestly, I used to hide that I was a cleaner, but now I'm proud of my job and I love it. I have clients who request me by name, and I feel grateful for this job and for a husband who understands and supports me. Why do you think you're a winner? Because I'm married to the son of a wealthy family and, at the company. Caught off guard by the question, Lily faltered. So, what do you do at the company? What? Surprised by the unexpected question, she froze. What do I do? I work, of course. According to other employees, you delegate your work to others, spend your time on your mobile phone or in front of a mirror, and make derogatory comments to the cleaning staff, right? Who said that? Recently, there's been a high turnover of cleaning staff at the company, so we conducted interviews with employees and those who left. Apparently, Lily, you've been saying things like cleaning is a job for the bottom tier, and how nice it must be to get paid without contributing anything. I never... We have their statements. Shall I call them? That's when I remembered. When I confided in William about Lily 2 weeks ago, He mentioned having concerns about her too. I never imagined she was harassing not just me but also the cleaning staff at the company. Her face turned pale. I didn't do such things. Her voice was fading, and she looked desperately at her husband Thomas. He remained silent and his gaze cold. If what we just discussed was true, his reaction was understandable. In hindsight, considering her acting skills, I even felt a bit sorry for Thomas. Lily, today is Mom's 60th birthday celebration. You don't belong at this celebration. Please leave. As William quietly urged her to leave. William, there's no need for that. I apologize for telling Madison to leave. Lily turned to me. Madison, you'll forgive me too, right? We're sisters. I'm your sister-in-law, so you'll forgive me, won't you? Sisters? Lily, have you already forgotten what you said 2 weeks ago? I've never once thought of you as a sister-in-law. You said that quite clearly, didn't you? I cut her off sharply, and she was left speechless, her eyes wide open. Then Lucy, who had been silent until now, spoke up. Lily, I'm not in the mood to celebrate with you today. It's not Madison who should be leaving, it's you, Lily. Go now, leave right now. Lucy's stern words made me instinctively shrink back along with Lily. The birthday celebrant Lucy commanded Lily to leave, and unable to say anything, she dejectedly left the private room. After that, Jack instructed Lily to apologize to the company's cleaning staff and do some cleaning work herself. However, if doing cleaning ladies' work means getting a divorce, I'd rather choose divorce. She angrily refused to admit any wrongdoing. When Thomas officially served her with divorce papers, she demanded compensation. But her reasonable parents apologized for her behavior. It's us who should be paying the compensation for the divorce. Her father said so. Then they took her back home. I can't bear being called a returned loser by my brother's wife, who lives with us at our family home. I want to start over. She messaged Thomas. But he was fed up with her selfishness, so he replied with selfish and blocked her. 2 years later, now being a mother to a 1-year-old son, I'm planning a new cleaning division in one of the companies Jack used to run, which William has taken over. Madison, your father sent some vegetables. Let's have it together. While cooking with them sent by my father. I can't wait to go to Madison's hometown. I want to go hiking. William's parents were looking forward to a family trip to my hometown. William's been kind and attentive to our son as always. I gazed at them, so he looked at me curiously. It's nothing. I was just thinking how lucky I am to be married to such a wonderful husband. Then I'm the luckiest man in the universe. Watching our interaction, Lucy remarked, What a lovely couple. Mommy. My son clapped his hands. I hope to continue finding our own happiness, laughing and spending time with my beloved family. I wish for my son to grow up to be a man like his father. That was my wish.
No, not yet. I thought I should show you first. Kayla, my sister-in-law, shot me a sharp, disdainful look. She said this as if she was about to throw the glass of water on the table at me. This happened when we gathered at a fancy restaurant for a family dinner. My father-in-law, Dolph, had mentioned that he had some important news to share. So it was Dolph, my mother-in-law, my brother-in-law and his wife, my husband, and me. I quickly averted my eyes from Kayla. I could feel a cold sweat trickling down my back. Every time I met Kayla, she never missed an opportunity to make snide remarks, and now it was all coming to a head. Why is this happening to me? Help me, Cody, Dolph! My name is Ashley Smith. 42 years old, I married Cody, who is a year older than me, last year, and we started living together. We rented a condo in the state next to where my husband's family lives. It's a small space, but it's enough for the two of us. I was just happy to be living with Cody. Dolph and his wife are both kind and have always treated me well. Even though I hadn't been married until now, Dolph runs the Smith Family Clinic in town. He's known as a kind and intelligent doctor, a pillar of the community. Originally, Cody was supposed to work at the Smith Family Clinic too, but Dolph suggested he work at a general hospital in our state instead. Cody joked, "Maybe Dad has disowned me." But I don't think that's the case. Cody may not realize it, but he's a popular doctor among his patients. He has good looks and is especially liked by older patients because he's empathetic. I met Cody at the hospital where he works shortly after I started working there as a temporary worker. As we interacted professionally, Cody started inviting me out for meals. There were many young women at work, but we were close in age and got along well. A year ago, Cody proposed and I immediately said, "Yes, please." I was supposed to work for only a year, but my boss has kept me on because of my performance. I'm still a temporary worker, but the work environment is good and everything is going smoothly. I had no complaints about my life. However, the problem arose shortly after I married Cody. "This is Cody's wife. She's getting on in years." There was a family meeting because of the marriage. On my side, I lost my father early on and am an only child. So it was just my mother and us, a peaceful family meeting. The issue came up when I met Cody's brother James and his wife Kayla. Well, yes, Cody and I are close in age, so we get along. But no matter how close in age you are, you're not that pretty. Kayla, who is my sister-in-law, was 34 at the time, 10 years younger than her husband James, who was 44. And to top it off, Kayla was stunningly beautiful. Kayla, who understands her own beauty, seemed to look down on me, who is older and not as attractive. Apparently, Kayla comes from a wealthy family and seems to look down on ordinary people because she was raised in affluence. "Kayla, don't be too harsh. If every woman were as cute as you, no one would be getting married late." Haha. "You're right, James. You're so smart." James, Cody's brother, also works at the Smith Family Clinic. Unlike Cody, he has a cold demeanor that has patients asking for a different doctor. Yet, he's clueless about being disliked and proudly claims, "I'm the best doctor in town." "James, Kayla, can you please stop bad-mouthing Ashley?" Cody steps in to defend me as Kayla and James continue to mock me. "What's gotten into you? It's because you can't read the room that you're not working at the Smith Family Clinic. You're off the successor track, working at another hospital." Who cares about that right now? What kind of husband would I be if I didn't stand up for my wife? Cody, you're taking this woman seriously. Soon enough, it will be proven that she's not fit for the Smith family. Kayla's words were harsh. From the day we first met until now, she's never missed an opportunity to insult me. Despite Kayla's constant nitpicking, Cody and I usually enjoy our married life. "Can I go to the beauty salon today?" "Sure, go ahead and refresh yourself." Cody is always considerate of me. Now, in our second year of marriage, he's a good husband who respects my opinions. I was looking forward to a day out alone, planning to enjoy some window shopping after going to the beauty salon. I got my hair cut and even had it permed. I'm in my 40s, but I still want to enjoy fashion, and I want Cody to continue finding me attractive. Despite Kayla's snide comments, Cody likes the way I look. To keep him from being disappointed, I have been mindful of my appearance. Feeling uplifted by my makeover, I was excitedly wondering what to look at in the various boutiques and accessory stores. "Oh, Ashley." Kayla. My good mood was ruined when I noticed Kayla approaching. She was carrying bags from high-end brands and wearing heels that were about 4 inches high. "What's with that hairstyle? Trying to look young?" "No matter what you do, you won't change." "This is my choice, Kayla. It has nothing to do with you." I couldn't help but snap back at her. I have never said anything mean to Kayla, yet she's always hostile towards me. "Wow, how pathetic. Dolph would be embarrassed to have you as his daughter-in-law looking like that. I wouldn't want to walk next to you either. Leave me alone. How I look is my business." "Getting all serious? How embarrassing. You can't even effort to shop, you poor thing." Kayla spat out those words and walked away. Her nasty comments felt like mud sinking to the bottom of my stomach, making me feel sick. Considering she's a stay-at-home wife yet always buying high-end items, I can only assume her wealthy parents are giving her money. Kayla flaunts money she didn't earn and belittles others. I can't stand how she uses her youth and beauty to look down on me. But if it were just the occasional snide remark when we met, I could have endured it. I could have just tuned her out, thinking about complex things like the origins of the universe during our once or twice a year family gatherings. However, Kayla's harassment didn't stop at family events.
Ashley, you're free right now, aren't you?
A few weeks later, I received a message from Kayla. We never usually communicate, so I was on guard when I saw her first ever message. What is it? Knowing Kayla dislikes me, I assumed it would be something straightforward. I braced myself and asked her what she wanted.
Something terrible has happened.
Terrible?
Yes, take a look at this photo.
Kayla sent me a picture. It showed the back of a man and a woman walking together. The man's right hand supporting the woman's back. At first glance, they looked like a couple. I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw the man's back. Cody?
Exactly. Isn't this bad? He's definitely cheating, right?
That can't be. I looked closely at the photo again. Though he wasn't in his white coat, the striped polo shirt was unmistakably one I had bought for Cody, and the hairstyle and height were all him. My head started to spin at the reality before me. What's going on, Cody?
My college friend happened to see this and took the photo. She's a patient at the hospital where you both work, so she recognized Cody.
Being a doctor, Cody is easily recognized by the public. That's how this incriminating photo was taken. Have you said anything to Cody?
No, not yet. I thought I would show you first.
I was at a loss for words. Memories of the happy times I'd spent with my husband flashed through my mind. He had always been kind to me, always on my side. But was all that kindness a lie?
What will you do? Divorce him? It's only natural since he's cheating.
My hand trembled as I held my phone. I wished this were a dream, but the photo proved it was real. I'm sorry, I can't think straight right now.
Of course, if you're going to divorce, better do it soon. You're not getting any younger, Ashley. Time's running out to find your next husband.
I could vividly imagine Kayla's mocking smile on the other end of the phone. What should I do? That night, I couldn't sleep and greeted the morning with a heavy heart. The next day, Cody noticed my gloomy face worn from lack of sleep and asked me with a concerned look, "Ashley, is something wrong?" I hesitated to tell Cody what Kayla had told me yesterday. If he really was cheating, he might lose his affection for me for discovering it. More importantly, I wasn't sure if I could forgive him. Either way, our marriage was undoubtedly in jeopardy. Well, about that, if you're troubled about something, talk to me. I'm here to listen. Cody, he looked straight into my eyes. Seeing his sincere gaze, I couldn't believe he would cheat on me. I decided it was better to consult with the man I love than to keep it to myself. I showed him the photo that Kayla had shown me yesterday. Kayla showed me this photo. What? Why does she have a photo like this? She said a friend of hers who goes to our hospital took it. In this photo, you look very close to this woman. What's going on? Honestly, I was terrified to hear the truth. If he seemed flustered after seeing the photo, it would confirm he was cheating. At that time, I too will have to lose my temper. I braced myself for him to say, "I like this woman," and closed my eyes. She's a patient. What? I happened to run into her in town and she looked unwell. She was just a bit anemic, but I'm glad it wasn't anything serious. Anemic? At first, I suspected Cody might be lying. But looking closely at the photo, it did appear that he was helping the woman walk. Not like they were involved in an affair. Exactly. It's good I happened to be there. But what did Kayla want by showing you this photo? She said you were cheating. Cheating? I would never do that. I love you too much, Ashley. Cody, I'm sorry for doubting you. You were worried about this? I'm sorry I didn't notice you were being harassed. Even though I had doubted him, he was still concerned for me. His kindness warmed my heart. I want to cherish this man for the rest of my life and stay by his side. No matter what Kayla says in the future, I will trust Cody. Still, what Kayla did was terrible. She tried to make it look like I was cheating because she doesn't like you, Ashley. She's trying to break us up. What a person! Now that I think about it, it was all a trap. But if we let this go, Kayla might harass us again.
Don't worry, I have a good idea.
A good idea?
Yes, leave it to me. You don't have to worry about anything, Ashley.
2 weeks had passed since I consulted Cody about Kayla. I knew he was working behind the scenes to get back at her, but I deliberately didn't ask what he was doing. It was a weekend, a week later, when we were called by Dolph for an important announcement. It was around the end of the year and we were planning to visit Cody's parents. Cody and I, along with my in-laws and Kayla and her husband James, were to meet at a high-end restaurant arranged by my in-laws. Dolph and Melinda were running a bit late, so Cody, James, Kayla, and I waited for them in a private room.
Oh, Ashley's here too? This place is for winners only. Poor people like you should just go home.
Kayla, again, how could you?
Just as Cody was struggling to contain his anger at James and Kayla's snide remarks,
Then you should leave.
What?
the door to the private room opened and Dolph and Melinda walked in. Kayla, who was just making a snide remark, looked surprised at Dolph.
Dolph, what are you saying? Ashley comes from a single-parent home and isn't suitable to support the Smith family clinic. I can support it.
You're saying Ashley's upbringing is bad? You're the one with a bad upbringing.
What? Why? We're wealthy, so of course we are well-bred.
Clearly, you don't even understand what well-bred means.
Dolph holds his head in disbelief. Melinda chimes in from beside him.
Kayla,
We have heard from Cody you have been harassing Ashley quite a bit.
what?
Kayla probably never thought her in-laws would find out about her actions. Her eyes widen in disbelief. People call it a bad upbringing when you talk badly about and belittle others.
What did you say?
We were planning to discuss the successor of Smith Family Clinic today. If it's about a successor, it should be me, right? Cody doesn't even work with us. Why bring this up now? No, the successor is Cody. What? Why? Damn it! Why would I let my incompetent brother take over? The one who's incompetent is you. You let your wife harass your brother's wife and you even join in.
Dolph says this clearly to James. James seems to want to argue, but Dolph's argument is too sound and he freezes on the spot. Taking James' place in barking back is once again Kayla.
Dolph, why aren't you scolding Cody?
What?
Cody is cheating.
I had a bad feeling about this meeting from the start. When I heard Kayla was coming, I suspected she might make a fuss about Cody cheating. Even if the information is wrong, Dolph and Melinda can't hide their shock when they hear the word cheating. Their eyes visibly shake.
You must be surprised. Your son, who you thought was a loving husband, is cheating. I have evidence. Look.
Kayla shows the in-laws the infamous photo. To an outsider, it indeed looks like Cody and the woman are in an inappropriate relationship. If someone told me my sincere child was cheating, I would be devastated, especially when his wife is right there. But that photo is wrong. Cody himself denied it. I trust him from the bottom of my heart. Kayla, that photo is not evidence of cheating.
What? You admitted it was cheating the other day, didn't you?
No, you're wrong. Cody is not cheating. He said so himself.
Are you stupid? No one would admit to cheating.
Kayla seems desperate to prove Cody's infidelity in front of her in-laws. What can I say to make her understand? Is everything I say useless? Will she dismiss me just because I'm poor? I don't want to just stand here silently. As I clenched my fists and closed my eyes, I felt Cody's hand touch my back.
I'm not cheating. If anyone is cheating here, it's you.
What are you saying? There's evidence in the photo. You're just making it hard on yourself.
No. The woman in that photo is a patient. I happened to run into her and she was anemic, so I helped her. Look, I even have her medical records.
Is that true?
You can fabricate those easily.
I would never waver for another woman as long as I have Ashley. If you can't believe that, fine. As long as Ashley believes in me.
Cody. Tears spilled from my eyes at his words. Yes, he believes in me so much.
Even if my whole family calls me a cheater, I believe you'll stand by me. Besides, are you okay with calling me a cheater?
What are you talking about?
Isn't Kayla the one who's cheating?
My husband rummages through his bag and pulls out an envelope. What's about to happen? What's in that envelope?
This is evidence of Kayla's infidelity. I had a private investigator look into it.
What? A private investigator?
Everyone in the room gasps as they look at the photos and reports my husband lays on the table. There are pictures of Kayla walking arm in arm with a flashy man entering a hotel and reports documenting their phone conversation. So this was Cody's good idea? He anticipated Kayla accusing him of cheating and turned the tables by exposing her.
I always found it strange. James is frugal, but Kayla is always decked out in high-end fashion accessories. I suspected she was getting money from someone. Hey, what are you saying? I give Kayla money too.
James protests, but Kayla's face is flushed. Her expression tells the story she's been cheating.
As you can see, I looked into it. Sorry, James. Don't get cocky. People can be impulsive, you know.
James is visibly shocked and irritated. Melinda also covers her mouth, saying, "What on earth?"
Impulsive? Well, whatever. But can you really say that, James? What do you mean? I had you investigated too, James. Turns out you're also cheating. What?
My husband pulls out more evidence from another large envelope, this time capturing James in the act. I never thought James would also be cheating. The developments are so shocking. I can hardly keep up.
James, what are you doing? Are you trying to ruin the reputation of Smith Family Clinic? No, this is different. Look, just like Cody, she's a patient. We just happened to meet on the street.
Do you usually get that close to just a patient with your arm around her waist? James has no chance but to admit his infidelity. With this much evidence, no one can deny it. Kayla, who now knows not only she but also her husband has been cheating, stands there with her mouth open. She can't say anything because she is guilty of the same thing.
James and Kayla, you are two of a kind. Doing something this dishonest and then speaking ill of Ashley, there is no way Dad would approve. Cody's right. The successor will be Cody.
Dolph clenches his fist as he makes the final decision. A look of relief spreads across Cody's face. I also breathe a sigh of relief.
Damn it.
James curses and leaves the room. Kayla tries to follow, but Dolph grabs her hand.
Wait a minute.
What? I have no more business with this family.
You may not have business with this family, but you do with Ashley. Apologize to her for everything you have done.
Why should I apologize to this poor person?
Oh, you don't know, do you? Ashley is far from poor.
What?
Ashley's parents were the CEOs of a major car manufacturing company, but she doesn't want to rely on her parents or be prejudiced for being wealthy. So she keeps it to herself.
Dolph tells Kayla about my family background. That's right. My family is considered wealthy by societal standards, but talking about it can sometimes lead to uncomfortable situations. Plus, since my father passed away, my mother and I have been living modestly despite having money. So I've chosen not to talk much about my family. Ashley is kind and considerate. Cody told me that patients always compliment how friendly and pleasant the receptionist is. Kayla, the one who's truly poor is you. Poor in spirit, and that's sad. Being praised by both Dolph and Melinda feels a bit awkward, but it's nice to feel recognized for my efforts. Kayla distorts her face in frustration and finally says,
Fine, my bad.
before storming off. When James and Kayla leave, we all let out a huge sigh of relief. Dolph, Melinda, and Cody, thank you for standing up for me.
It's only natural, Ashley. You always do the right thing. Yes, we know how much you trust Cody.
We are truly grateful to have someone like you in our family, Ashley. Thank you for being Cody's wife. Tears welled up in my eyes at their words. I vow to continue believing in Cody.
Now, let's have a delicious meal. We must all be hungry.
Yes. Later on, James and Kayla divorced and Kayla left the Smith family. She must have regretted losing her doctor husband, especially after hearing that I come from money. She's struggling to find a job, having been a housewife all this time. Her affair partner dumped her, saying it was just a fling, and she seems to be falling apart both mentally and physically. James, now shunned by Dolph and sulking, decided to take a leave of absence. Dolph insisted, saying an unstable doctor would make patients uneasy. Meanwhile, Cody is working harder than ever. Now that he's confirmed as a successor to Smith Family Clinic, it turns out Dolph had wanted Cody, not the cunning James, to be the successor for quite some time. He had planned for Cody to gain experience in a larger hospital first. I was offered a full-time position at Smith Family Clinic by Dolph. The salary is higher and the benefits are better. I was so happy to be recognized by Dolph that I immediately accepted. Are you sure it's okay?
Of course, I can entrust Smith Family Clinic and Cody to you, Ashley.
Thank you. I look forward to working with you. Though I was harassed by Kayla and worried about what would happen, I know there are people who see and appreciate my hard work, and someone who loves me unconditionally. That alone makes me truly happy.
Home at last! Get me a beer and a gourmet steak, would ya? I had just returned from shopping when I saw unfamiliar bags sitting there. I was wondering what they could be when I was suddenly hit with this rude comment. I recognized that voice, and as I looked up, feeling a wave of discomfort, there stood Lewis, my ex-husband who disappeared 3 years ago. Ignoring his smug grin and condescending gaze, I walked into the house without saying a word. Not getting a reply, Lewis followed me, chatting away annoyingly. I acted as if I couldn't hear him. Ignoring Lewis's chatter, I walked around the house and began stuffing everything I needed into a random bag. Hey, don't ignore me! You know I hate being ignored! Unable to tolerate being dismissed, Lewis yelled, grabbed my arm, and turned me towards him. What's the deal? I come home and you treat me like this? Shaking off his grasp, I answered firmly. Fine then. I'm going to my parents' home. Parents' home? What? Clearly not understanding what I meant, Lewis looked bewildered. Leaving him standing there, I walked out of the house, took out my mobile phone, and made a call, as I headed towards the comforting sanctuary of my parents' home. My name is Crystal. I'm now 73 years old. I first met Lewis when I was fresh out of high school and had just started my first job. We were colleagues in the same department. It was my first experience in the working world and I was utterly clueless. Seemingly taking pity on me, Lewis would always find me when I was struggling and offer his help. I started to fall for him because of his kindness. Lewis seemed to feel the same way, and as I started getting used to my job, he suddenly asked me out. Caught off guard by his sudden proposal, I hesitated and put off giving an answer, but he persisted, never giving up his pursuit. Drawn to his straightforwardness, I finally took the plunge and asked him to be with me. To my delight, Lewis agreed instantly, and we were married before we knew it. After a short time, I found out I was pregnant, but by the time our child was born, Lewis had become a different man. While I was knee-deep in parenting, Lewis was consumed by his job. Day after day, he'd come home late and leave for work so early, I wondered if he ever slept. Even as our child grew and events like school ceremonies and sports days became frequent, Lewis showed no interest in participating. Our child was feeling the absence, and when I tried to talk to Lewis about it, he yelled, "Who do you think is paying the bills? Just handle it yourself!" And from then on, he grew increasingly distant. Lewis started coming home even later, often not coming home at all. When he did show up, he'd reek of alcohol, stumbling in drunk. When I'd ask what he was up to, he'd scream, "I'm entertaining clients! It's work, okay?" After that, I stopped confronting him. Years went by, and Lewis reached retirement age, but even in retirement, he continued to work every day. Though I didn't know the details, he seemed to have a late retirement job and was still coming home late, apparently hitting the bars. But there was one change. Now the money he spent on these so-called business dinners came from his own pocket. We had to start worrying about our finances since our child was off to college. Although Lewis made a decent income, it was now a concern. That's why I started a part-time job, but the money for Lewis's entertainment expenses was coming from that income. At this point, I was at a loss about what I was even working for. Our living expenses were being drained by Lewis's business dinners, and Lewis wouldn't settle for cheap things, not after all these years. So I worked my hardest and budgeted meticulously. Eventually, Lewis's late retirement job also came to an end. Thanks to my careful budgeting, we'd saved up just enough for a little luxury. After years of working at the same company, Lewis finally retired. While he seemed aimless during the day, he still went out on his nightly escapades. Though not as often as when he was employed, he would still snatch some money from me and head out. Each time he returned, the scent of alcohol clung to him, indicating his destinations hadn't changed. Deciding this couldn't go on and eager to finally spend quality time as a couple, I proposed a trip to a long-desired tourist destination. A trip? With you? Why should I... well, sure, let's go. Though he seemed reluctant at first, a long stare into my eyes seemed to convince him. Had I looked that serious? I had no clue what went through Lewis's mind, but thrilled by his agreement, I started making arrangements right away. First stop, choosing a hotel. I went through my phone and travel magazines, discussing multiple options with Lewis as we settled on one. He didn't seem all that interested, but I decided not to back down this time and continued making preparations. Just when everything was set and all that remained was to wait for the day, Lewis's phone rang. Picking up the call as he left the living room, he said, "Oh, golf overnight next Thursday? Great! What time should I be there?" The joy in his voice unsettled me. We were supposed to leave for our trip next Friday. If he goes golfing overnight on Thursday, he might not make it back in time. I waited restlessly for Lewis to come back. "All right then." As Lewis ends the phone call with a smile, I quickly ask for confirmation. "Lewis, you remember next Friday, right?" "Next Friday? The trip we're going on, remember?" "Oh, that. We're leaving in the evening, right? I'll make it." "Are you sure?" When Lewis gives a dismissive reply, I ask back with a puzzled and stern expression. Then Lewis shouts back, looking annoyed. "What's with that look? Let me have my retirement fun!" With that, Lewis leaves the living room and I'm left alone. I'm stunned, unable to retort after being yelled at for the first time in a while. I felt utterly pathetic and decided to just call it a day. Days passed and Lewis left for his golf outing early in the morning. Tomorrow was finally the day of our trip, so I decided to double-check everything to make sure nothing was amiss. Finding no issues, I decided to anxiously await Lewis's return. Morning broke without him and I woke up early, perhaps due to my anxiety. We had a flight to catch in the evening for our trip, and I'd feel at ease only if he came back after noon. Time crawled by, and even after noon, Lewis still hadn't returned. Feeling overwhelmed with anxiety, I tried calling Lewis, but got no answer. I tried reaching out multiple times, but still no response. Pacing the floor and glancing at the clock, I finally lost my patience when Lewis eventually called me. "What are you doing? Where are you? We're running out of time!" Before even hearing Lewis's voice, I blurted out my concerns. Just as I was about to ask him to hurry home, Lewis interrupted me. "Sorry, but I can't make it in time. Go ahead without me. I'll catch up." His voice carried a slight tone of apology. Then he hung up abruptly. Stunned, I immediately tried calling him back, but he didn't answer. Resigned, I got ready and headed to the airport. On my way, I stood before the airport staff holding 2 tickets, explaining the situation. Once I arrived, I had to repeat my story to the puzzled hotel receptionist during check-in. I tried calling Lewis to let him know I was at the hotel, but got no response. Feeling miserable, I ate dinner and spent the night crying. At dawn, I checked out of the hotel. I canceled all my plans for the day and went home. "Lewis, are you home?" Opening the door, I found no signs of Lewis. As I entered the living room, I noticed a piece of paper on the table. Curious, I looked at it and realized it was a filled-out divorce application. I slumped into a chair, utterly defeated. I sat like that in the now silent house for some time. Fast forward 3 years. I'm walking home from my part-time job. The streets are beginning to darken, and while nothing has changed in these 3 years, I certainly have. Taking a deep breath that resembles a sigh, I adjust the eco bag of groceries I'm holding and look up at the darkening sky as I reach my front door. Then I notice it. The lights are on in the house. For a moment, my heart trembles. I rush in and find unfamiliar luggage. Shocked, I ponder what's going on. Just then, I heard a familiar voice saying something quite intrusive. As I lift my head, overwhelmed with an indescribable discomfort, there stood Lewis, who had disappeared without a trace 3 years ago. I couldn't help my astonishment as Lewis looked down on me with a smug grin. Before I could ponder why, Lewis impatiently called out, "Got home, didn't I? Give me a beer and some fancy steak, now!" Stunned, I watched as a satisfied Lewis retreated to the living room. As I followed him into the room, Lewis was already engrossed in the TV, looking quite disheveled. Wearing dirty sweatpants and his hair a mess, Lewis even sported an unshaven beard and a protruding belly. I left the living room without saying a word. Lewis noticed my silence and followed me out, badgering me with relentless chatter, but I wasn't listening. I walked around the house, went into the room we use for storage, and pulled out a suitable bag. I started to pack what I needed. "Hey, don't ignore me! You know I hate being ignored!" Apparently unable to handle being ignored any longer, Lewis yelled and grabbed my arm. "I came home for you, and this is how you act?" I shook off Lewis's hand and said firmly, "Don't expect me to be the same as before. I'm going home, to my parents' house." "Wait, your parents' house?" Lewis was bewildered, unable to grasp what I was saying. Ignoring him, I left the house and quickly dialed a number on my mobile phone. I pack enough essentials in my bag for a decent period and head towards the comforting home. Along the way, I make a phone call. I knew it might be an inconvenient time, but I couldn't care less at that moment. The person on the other end seemed somewhat surprised, but quickly agreed to my coming, so I hurried on my way. After arriving, I pressed the doorbell. The person who greeted me made me burst into tears. "Welcome! Come on in!" said the person who warmly welcomed me and handed me a towel as I sat near the stove. I thanked them and buried my face into the towel. The different scent of the place oddly comforted me, helping me calm down. They made me coffee in the meantime, which was handed over gently. I love this coffee. The coffee served in this former in-laws' house. Joanna listened to my story just like she had 3 years ago, occasionally nodding. It was Joanna I turned to when I felt lost, left behind by Lewis with divorce papers. Keeping my eyes dry, I explained my situation to Joanna. She kindly invited me to her house. Where I ended up running to was my ex-in-laws' place. Again, Joanna listened to my story attentively. Glancing at my phone that had been ringing, she suggested, "For now, try calling Lewis over here." Taking her advice, I returned one of Lewis's many calls and told him to come. But Lewis just yelled incomprehensible things and hung up. Seeing my disappointed face, Joanna smiled and started dialing. "Hey, Lewis, come home, right now." Though Joanna spoke in a firm yet gentle tone, it seemed Lewis's response was unchanged. Gripping the phone tightly, Joanna warned, "Crystal is crying. If you don't want to sever ties with me, who's helped you out, come home, now." She hung up without even waiting for Lewis's reply. I had never seen Joanna raise her voice like that, and to my surprise, my tears had retreated. "Don't be startled. He'll be here soon. Then we'll teach him a lesson together," she said, turning to me with her usual warm smile. As we sipped coffee and continued chatting, the front door suddenly became noisy. Joanna slowly got up and headed for the entrance. "What's with all the racket? You're bothering the neighbors?" Unlocking the door and letting Lewis in, Joanna pulled him by the ear toward me. She seated Lewis where she had been sitting and took a seat next to me. Turning to Lewis, she just said, "Well?" and sipped her coffee. Lewis looked puzzled for a moment, but quickly started shouting and pointing at me. This woman ignored me and left, even though I came home for her. I thought she'd be lonely since I've been gone for so long. Feeling my anger rise at Lewis's words, I was about to retort, but Joanna interjected. Where exactly have you been, and what have you been doing for the last 3 years? Lewis was at a loss for words. Back then, I had clung to Joanna and tried contacting Lewis in the same way. Whether he had blocked my calls or not, he was unreachable. Even Joanna couldn't get through. So it was good that we could contact him and get him to this time. Seizing the opportunity, Joanna pressed Lewis. With which woman are you this time? What do you mean, which? Lewis's face twisted as he looked at me. I waited for Lewis's response, keeping my poker face. I couldn't believe Lewis thought I had no idea after all he's done. There's no way I wouldn't know. After explaining everything at Joanna's place, she suggested hiring a private investigator to dig up on Lewis. And just like that, his numerous affairs came to light. He wasn't working late. He was clubbing and had been spending freely there for ages. Once I found out the extent of his shenanigans, I reported back to Joanna. She broke down, apologized, and we both immediately filed the already completed divorce papers. Joanna comforted me, telling me to forget about Lewis. Thanks to her, I was able to move on. Now, here he was, back to ruin everything. Gathering myself, I blurted out, I bet you had a great time leading your double life. At this, Lewis's face flushed red. He opened his mouth to yell, but Joanna slammed her cup down, silencing him. Lewis startled and quickly recomposed himself. We're well aware of your affairs, I continued. You left us, your family, to have your fun. So you'd rather go on trips with your mistress than with me, huh? Yes, Lewis had ignored our planned trip to go on a vacation with his then mistress. He had lied, saying it was a golf weekend. I was devastated when I found out. I had tried to forget, but as it all came rushing back, my anger boiled over. You knew? How? No, forget that. Forgive me, Crystal. I won't do it again. Lewis pleaded, clearly unable to bear being glared at by both me and Joanna. But forgiveness was off the table. Joanna snapped. Do you have any idea how much Crystal suffered? Your pathetic apology won't cut it. Now it's your turn to feel miserable. Her voice, strong for someone well into her 90s, made Lewis stifle a scream. He turned to me. I'm sorry. Really. Let's go on a trip to make up for it. Just the two of us. I'll pay for everything. I don't know what you're thinking, but there's no way I'm going on a trip with you. Besides, we're not even married anymore. What? He tried to sweet-talk me when he failed with my mom, but it was too late. We were already divorced. Lewis must have still thought I was his wife, blissfully ignorant. What a convenient delusion. Hey, come on. That was just a joke. Oh, really? But I don't like jokes like that. When I casually responded, Lewis turned ghostly pale. After that, Joanna and I completely ignored Lewis as he tried to explain himself. At first, Lewis yelled and screamed, but when he saw he was being ignored, he ended up crying like a child. Joanna told me that even after his disappearance, Lewis had been coming to get money from her. By then, I had started taking action in my own life, so I never contacted him. He was still finding ways to get money, though. Joanna had been keeping tabs on him. She knew what he was up to. It was a tough time for me, but it must have been equally hard for Joanna to keep it all to herself. Thinking back, it feels overwhelming. When Lewis eventually fell asleep, Joanna and I discussed our next steps. Apparently, Lewis had been kicked out by a woman he was close to, so he had nowhere to live. So he would live with Joanna for the time being, and I would consult a lawyer to claim compensation from him. I couldn't let this opportunity slip away. However, Lewis couldn't afford to pay, so Joanna would cover the compensation for me. With a plan in place, I took action immediately. A few days later, the compensation was transferred to my account. Lewis seemed relieved that he didn't have to pay, but all that changed was that he now owed the money to Joanna instead of me. Nothing was resolved. Joanna updates me occasionally. Lewis is using age-friendly employment opportunities to work and pay her back. Almost reaching her 100th birthday, Joanna seems to manage the slacker Lewis just fine. I hope she stays strong for many more years. As for me, I went back to my childhood home the moment I confirmed the transfer. This is where I truly grew up, and I returned to take care of my ailing mother. I had given her a lot to worry about. From now on, I intend to live a more laid-back life while taking care of her.
Please, help me! The voice of Mia on the phone was so frantic that I had never heard. She was supposed to be on a plane to Hawaii with Ethan by now. Was there some kind of trouble? I braced myself. Our house! Our house! What? Our house? Mia wasn't on the plane. Learning the truth, I resolved to send Ethan, who had been missing, to hell. I'm Lily, a 32-year-old corporate employee at a major trading company. My husband Ethan is a year younger than me, and we got married 3 years ago. He works for a big corporation too, and is quite handsome by any standard. I didn't choose him for his looks or salary, but he's been nothing short of perfect as a spouse. I've been happy we married early. Our marriage was smooth sailing, but then, out of nowhere, Ethan quit his job recently. According to him, he couldn't give up his dream of becoming a writer and needed to submit lots of manuscripts for competitions to debut. I told him, "You can write after work on weekdays or on weekends." But my words fell on deaf ears. Instead of focusing on his health after quitting, he's been mostly sleeping at home, almost like he's unemployed. Hey, if you're going to be at home, at least do some housework. If I do the housework, I'll have no time to write my manuscript. You're just sleeping all day anyway. I was fed up with this repetitive argument. Not working, not doing house chores, just sleeping. My patience with Ethan was wearing thin, and I started considering divorce. But thinking about my good income, Ethan's remaining savings, and most of all, Mia, Ethan's mother, who was overjoyed about our marriage, made it hard to take that step. Mia raised Ethan alone and dotes on him as he has no siblings. She was thrilled about our marriage, treating me like her own daughter. However, since Ethan quit his job, Mia started to act awkwardly around me. She often didn't respond to my messages. It was clear she was avoiding me, and I couldn't figure out why. When I asked Ethan, he just said it would be best to leave her alone, not taking it seriously. Gradually, I too started to dread contacting her, deciding to just observe as he suggested. At least do the house chores if you're not working. I'm doing all the work and house chores, while you just sleep all day. That day, my anger finally erupted. Ethan was talking about a deadline for some competition, but he wasn't acting like it. He complained about me being slow to prepare lunch while I was working remotely. I couldn't stay silent after that. It turned into a fierce argument. You're always working too, never make a decent meal. What, should I just not eat? Your lazy behavior without working is only possible because I'm out there earning our living expenses, right? Your savings hardly make a dent in our costs. Being called out for not working and being supported by me, Ethan's face turned red with embarrassment and he started shaking. I thought if he got violent, I'd leave the house right away, but thankfully, that worst-case scenario was avoided. Without saying a word, Ethan stormed out of the house. Watching him leave in his casual clothes, with just his mobile phone and wallet, making deliberately loud footsteps, I felt like I was looking at a petulant child. The only place he could go in that getup would be his parents' house. I thought of warning Mia in advance about Ethan possibly causing trouble, but, as usual, she didn't answer her phone. He sneaked back home later that night, but from that day on, our conversations dwindled, and he started avoiding me, going out more frequently. For an unemployed Ethan, his destinations were limited, usually his parents' house, and sometimes I'd find receipts from internet cafes. I tried to initiate conversations several times, but each time, he would escape to his room or just leave the house. I gave up on repairing our relationship and started preparing for a divorce. I thought it best to inform Mia about the divorce. I sent texts and made calls, but got no response. Even when I asked Ethan that something might have happened to her, he just said she was fine. Considering how often he visited his parents' house, I believed him, but I started doubting his whereabouts. I could just ask Mia how often he visits her, but I couldn't get in touch with her. I thought about investigating his whereabouts myself, but with work and household chores, I didn't have the time or energy. Returning home after a late-night overtime shift, I found him fiddling with something in front of the closet.
What are you doing up so late?
Welcome back. Actually, I'm planning to take Mom to Hawaii tomorrow, just packing for the trip.
Tomorrow?
That's quite sudden. Unconcerned by my surprise, he happily packed the luggage. I knew Mia always wanted to go on a trip. After Ethan's father passed away when Ethan was young, Mia devoted herself to working and raising him alone. She rarely even went to the department store, let alone on trips. I remember her saying that with a wistful smile.
This month, Mom turns 60, so I thought I'd fulfill her long-standing dream. Mia's turning 60 already. Yeah, that's why I've been working part-time lately, saving up money for this. But there's a bit of a problem.
He looked up at me.
I've got enough for Mom's part of the trip, but I'm short for my half. I've been saving, but it's not enough. So, I was wondering, Lily, could you help out a bit? Is that okay?
He looked at me with a pleading expression, radiating charm as if refusing him would be unthinkable.
So, you're saying I should pay for your part?
Startled by my unexpectedly cold tone, he hastily shook his head.
No. Just lend me the money. I'll pay it back after the trip.
And you're not going to fail to pay me back because you can't find a job, right? I glared at him, and he looked suspiciously guilty. I was astounded by his audacity.
I won't do that. Trust me, I can even write a commitment form if you want.
All right, let's do that. I pulled a piece of paper and a pen towards me.
After the trip, you'll get a full-time job and start paying it back. No part-time jobs, understood?
He grudgingly agreed, though he seemed reluctant.
And if you can't pay back, we'll divorce. We'll settle it in court with a third party.
Divorce? He looked visibly unsettled. Maybe the reality of divorce hit him hard. Still, when I insisted I wouldn't lend him the money unless he agreed to these terms, he reluctantly accepted. I wrote down the conditions and the amount, and had Ethan sign it. Make sure you pay it back.
I know.
I made a copy of the agreement and handed it to Ethan. It might be a good idea to show it to Mia if I get a chance. Feeling exhausted, I left him by the closet and went to bed. I intended to see him off, but he must have left early. When I woke up to go to work, he and his luggage were already gone. Thanks to yesterday's overtime, my workload today was light. I could finish my work in the morning and take a half day off. I planned to enjoy life without Ethan to the fullest. After finishing my work in the morning, I was having lunch, wondering if he and Mia were on the plane by now, when my phone started ringing loudly. Thinking it might be a work call, I answered without checking the caller.
Good, you picked up.
It was Mia's voice, desperate and strained, not at all like someone in the middle of a luxurious Hawaiian vacation.
Mia, what's wrong? The trip? Have you already arrived in Hawaii?
Hawaii? Trip? I don't know what you're talking about. Please, come over. Our house, it's about to burn down. Mia's plea was almost a scream. In the background, I could hear the sound of fire trucks and orders being shouted. Though I puzzled, I quickly agreed to come and hurriedly finished my lunch and headed to her house. When I arrived, the smell of smoke filled the street, and flames leaped high into the sky.
Mia!
I rushed towards Mia, who seemed on the verge of collapsing in front of her burning house. She looked up at me with a pale, distant face and murmured faintly, "This house is done for." Led by Mia's gaze, I looked up at her house, burning and crumbling before us. It spread from the house next door. The wind was strong, and the fire spread quickly, they said. We didn't even have anything flammable. Numerous fire trucks were on the scene, fighting fiercely against the flames, but her house was engulfed, showing no signs of being saved soon. The wind was strong, occasionally sending sparks flying our way. It's dangerous here. Why don't we go to my place for now? You won't be able to enter the house even after the fire dies down. Mia looked at me, hesitating, her face showing a reluctance to be involved with me. I somehow understand you've been avoiding me, but we can't just stand here forever. After my words, she finally agreed to move. We hurried towards my home. By the way, what was that about a Hawaii trip? I thought you were off to Hawaii with Ethan today. Ethan said that? Yes. He said it was to celebrate your 60th birthday. I haven't heard a word about it. We were both confused by our completely mismatched stories. It was a misunderstanding arranged by Ethan. Ethan told me that you were pushing all the housework onto him and going out with other men. He even said you were trying to borrow money from me, and I should avoid contacting you. That's all lies. When the fire spread to the house, I couldn't reach Ethan by phone. I thought you might know where he is. I never imagined he'd be on a Hawaii trip. I couldn't fathom why Ethan would lie to keep me and Mia apart. But for Ethan, keeping us disconnected probably served his purposes. Mia, it's all a misunderstanding. Ethan quit his job to become a writer, but he never writes. He doesn't do housework and just sleeps all day. Oh, so we've been deceived by him. Perhaps she has been harbored doubts about Ethan. She readily accepted my words. If Ethan hadn't gone to Hawaii with Mia, had he taken the money for two and gone alone? Or maybe with someone else? Anyway, nothing could be done until he returned from his trip. I'll confront him thoroughly when he gets back. That night, Mia and I spent a long time talking, catching up on everything we'd missed. The firefighters had informed us that it was inevitable that the house burned down, so she agreed to stay at my place until she found a new home. The more we talked, the more Ethan's web of lies unraveled. It was unbelievable how he had badmouthed me, even though I was handling both work and all the housework. Mia kept apologizing to me. But it wasn't her fault, it was Ethan's. We waited for Ethan to return. What's this all about? For days later, Ethan, oblivious to everything, cheerfully returned home, only to be dragged by Mia and me to the remains of Mia's house. Ethan was speechless in front of the burnt-out house. Ethan, you lied to Mia and me, and leisurely went on a Hawaii trip while everything burned down. Lies? What are you talking about? He was visibly shaken and unsettled. Before I could say anything, Mia stepped forward. Ethan, aren't you ashamed? Lying to Lily to get money. Who did you go on the trip with? Her anger was fierce, and I involuntarily stepped back. At first, Ethan tried to retort, but the glares from both Mia and me left him speechless. Wouldn't it be better to just admit it? If we go to court like the commitment form says, you'll lose immediately. I haven't said I won't pay it back yet. You never intended to, right? I know about your real job, Ethan. He glared at me, trying to hide his panic. What are you talking about? Rent a boyfriend. Did you enjoy your trip with your client? If your company finds out, you'll be fired for violating the rules. At my accusation, he gasped. Mia had told me about his secret job the night she stayed at my place. She didn't know what he did, but she mentioned he often came to her house with envelopes bearing a store's logo. Relying on her memories, I found a Rent-A-Boyfriend website. Though his mouth was covered with a heart stamp in the pictures, it was clearly Ethan, and he seemed to be quite popular in sales. I admit I've been working, but the trip was different. As he tried to resist, I showed him the screen of my mobile phone. He looked at the image and stood there, stunned. That dumb woman. It was a disaster that you went on a trip with her. On the screen was a photo of Ethan lying on a Hawaiian beach, smiling next to an unfamiliar woman. The date was from 2 days ago. The woman, mistaking Ethan as her real boyfriend, had probably uploaded the photo to social media. Apparently having no idea about the photo, he hung his head in defeat. With evidence laid bare, there was no escape for him. Ethan, trembling, fell to his knees. "Please forgive me." I looked at Ethan's apology with a cold gaze. Mia, too, looked at his disgrace with a chilly stare. "Sorry, but I have no intention of forgiving you." I brushed off Ethan as he begged for forgiveness, insisting that he was sorry. I turned to Mia, who continued to glare at Ethan with anger in her eyes. Ethan had been working secretly as a rent-a-boyfriend, and most of his earnings were lost to gambling. I confronted Ethan about his secret purchases of lottery tickets after he promised to work harder, and I decided to file for divorce. We agreed that he would pay back the borrowed travel money with interest. Mia, realizing his earnings as a rent-a-boyfriend, demanded he contribute to the rebuilding of her house. Though the fire had started from the neighboring house, its rapid spread was partly due to Ethan's actions. Apparently, he kept all the things he couldn't bring to our house in his room at Mia's house. This included stylish clothes for his rent-a-boyfriend job, scented candles, and trinkets that women like. His room was so filled that Mia had warned him several times, but he angrily refused to let her in, almost becoming violent. She tried to avoid his room as much as possible. Before leaving for his trip, he had rummaged through his room to get ready, leaving the dusty window open. He forgot to close it, and after the fire started, sparks flew into the room on the wind, quickly engulfing it. If he had closed the window or kept his room tidy, the fire might not have spread so badly. Although the neighboring house was primarily to blame for the fire, Mia, fueled by her anger at being deceived, demanded that he should compensate her at least partially. Ethan, intimidated by Mia and my collection efforts, apparently had been making quite a lot as a rent-a-boyfriend. He bragged about being able to pay off the debt easily, but he was fired from his job and faced a lawsuit for damages. At his rent-a-boyfriend agency, it was forbidden to go on overnight trips with clients. Meeting them without the company's knowledge and posting about dates on social media were also against the rules. He broke all these rules, leading to his dismissal. A client who had chosen him became furious after seeing the social media post from the woman he went to Hawaii with. This led to a loss of regular clients, and the company sued him for damages. Having once earned a high income as a rent-a-boyfriend, he was disillusioned with normal job salaries and struggled to find employment. However, he was eventually forced to use his savings and take part-time jobs to pay off his debts to various parties. Mia decided to live with me until her house was rebuilt. She took over the household chores, freeing me up from my busy work schedule. On weekends, we enjoyed movies together. Once my major project at work is completed, I plan to take a long vacation and fulfill her wish to go on a trip. Although I divorced Ethan, Mia and I found we had a lot in common and would like to maintain our good relationship.
Sorry, I don't quite get what you're saying. Today is a family outing. You're a daughter-in-law, so basically a stranger, right? If you get it, why don't you just go home? My mother-in-law smirks at me. What? Really? Awesome! An unexpected person shouts in joy and strikes a victory pose. Seeing this, my mother-in-law is stunned, and I'm about to burst into laughter. This is too funny. My name is Alethea, and I am 26 years old. My husband, Josh, a college classmate, works in his family's grocery store, which has been around for 3 generations. Since getting married, I've moved in with his family and work alongside them. His grandfather, Theodore, citing his weakening legs, handed over the store to my father-in-law, Oscar, last year. It's not that I can't walk, but I'm still in good health, so I sometimes go to the store. Theodore still comes to the store occasionally, and when he does, sales nearly double. It's clear how much the community loves the store. Eventually, Josh is expected to take over the business. I used to work in an office, but now I mainly handle the store's administrative tasks. Since Theodore handed the store to Oscar, I've been spending more time on the shop floor. I had no experience in customer service, but it turns out I'm good at it. People even say I've become the store's poster girl. Alethea, you've really brightened up this place. Josh is lucky to have you. Those kind words come from Dave, who runs a candy store next door. We supply the fruits for Dave's store, and he's been a loyal customer for years. I was nervous about leaving my hometown to live in a new place, but I love Josh, and the locals have been really good to us. We haven't been blessed with children yet, but otherwise, I'm living a pretty happy married life. Except for one issue. Do you know what male superiority and female inferiority means? If not, look it up right now. My mother-in-law Eliza told me this on my first day here. I only vaguely understand what it means. There may have been other meanings, but I don't know. I looked it up on my phone, a social custom that respects men and belittles women. Also, there were words like such social customs. I couldn't comprehend it. Maybe that was the case long ago, but who says that nowadays? Women are making strides in all fields. My mom was a career woman before marrying my dad. She returned to work after raising me and is still very active. She even got promoted last month. My dad is quiet, but they exchange gifts every anniversary and are very much in love. They think I don't notice, but I see them holding hands secretly. My grandparents also live harmoniously, respecting each other. I grew up in such a family, so I can't relate to what Eliza is saying. Isn't that a bit outdated? Maybe I shouldn't have said it, but it seems to have struck a nerve with Eliza. We've been on bad terms from the start, even though I get along with the rest of the family. Before the wedding, it wasn't like this. During our initial meeting and the wedding, Eliza was extremely quiet. Even when my parents tried to engage her, she'd just say, "Yes, that's right," or "Is that so?" killing the conversation. The atmosphere was awkward until Oscar said, "I'm sorry, my wife is a bit shy around new people," trying to smooth things over. My parents were worried about whether Eliza and I would get along. Josh's mom seemed robotic. "Are you sure you'll be okay?" My mom asked. I thought calling her a robot was a bit much, but even I couldn't figure her out. Still, I loved Josh and had no second thoughts about our marriage. Eliza added another rule for me, the daughter-in-law she didn't like. Always listen to your in-laws, no matter what. This has nothing to do with male superiority and female inferiority. It was probably just Eliza's personal grudge. I've been married and living here for a few years now, and to be honest, I don't take Eliza's words too seriously. Once, when I tried to send some expensive wine to my parents for their anniversary, she said, "You don't need to send such expensive gifts. You're part of this family now, so focus on us." I ignored her absurd comment. My friends say I have a steel mentality for putting up with her. I'd like to get along with Eliza since we live together, but she seems to really dislike me. What a pity person. Both Josh and Oscar apologized to me for her behavior. They're struggling with her too. How many times do I have to tell you? Oscar gets yelled at almost daily. Each time I think to myself, what was that about male superiority and female inferiority? Josh, do you really think you'll make sales with that kind of customer service? Eliza usually keeps her distance from the business. She's perfect at housework, saying that's a woman's primary role. On the other hand, I only clean what's visible, so I often get scolded by her. Since Theodore handed the store to Oscar, Eliza started to interfere in the business. But as her enthusiasm increased, the store's sales have declined under Oscar's management, so Theodore occasionally helps out, which Eliza does not like. Theodore, Oscar, Josh, and I can handle the store. You should enjoy your retirement. What about me? Eliza tells this to Theodore, who awkwardly returns to his room each time she speaks. Eliza, who bosses me around, seems to have a, let's say, delicate relationship with Theodore and his wife. I thought Eliza would listen to her in-laws since she expects me to, but apparently not. Because my grandmother-in-law Grace is very kind. Even Theodore, when he sees I'm down, he will say, "Come here, Alethea, have some candy." They treat me like a real granddaughter. We've become like tea buddies recently. We don't talk about male superiority and female inferiority, but they sympathize with my struggles with Eliza. They told me to call them Grandpa and Grandma, and I do. Eliza got mad about it, but backed down when she found out they had asked me to. Do you both like pound cake? It's always served when we have tea. Every time I have tea with Theodore and his wife, pound cake is on the menu. When I asked, they said, "We have a friend who always brings us pound cake. We call her the Pound Lady." Pound Lady? I couldn't help but laugh out loud. But it seems like they're really struggling. "Hey, Alethea, can I ask you for a favor?" I was surprised by Grace's request. A few days later, I was at the bakery next door. "Excuse me, can I get some cream puffs, eclairs, and, also some pudding, please?" Christina, Dave's daughter, looked delighted as I excitedly placed my order. Originally, the shop focused on homey sweets made by Dave. But since Christina, a culinary school graduate who worked at a famous bakery, returned to town, the shop started offering more elaborate desserts and has been even featured on TV. Of course, Dave's sweets are delicious too. Christina is beautiful and very kind, but strangely still single. She also calls me Alethea dear. Thanks for coming by so often, Alethea dear. We haven't seen Eliza much lately, though she used to come every other day. I broke into a cold sweat at Christina's puzzled words. Actually, I knew why. Eliza stopped coming because I started frequenting the bakery. Is Eliza not feeling well? When Christina asked, I lied. No, she's fine. She and Oscar are getting along well. Christina looked puzzled and said, I see. The truth is, Oscar still gets yelled at every day. I am back. As I returned to the store, I locked eyes with Eliza. She glared at me openly and stormed off home. Seeing this, Josh asked, Something wrong? Well, actually, Grace had told me this. Alethea, we'd love to try some of Christina's sweets. Dave lost his wife early and raised Christina as a single dad. Christina often consulted Grace on matters she couldn't discuss with her dad, and Grace adored her like her own daughter. We've never tried any sweets made by Christina. What? Never? Why? I wondered why they hadn't, given the bakery was right next door. It's because of the Pound Lady. Theodore sighed. Ever since we told Dave his pound cake is the best, she keeps buying it like it's a curse. Right, when Christina came back and brought us some sweets, we sent her back with them, saying we prefer pound cake. As I thought, who would do such a rude thing? An image of the Pound Lady formed into my mind. Could the Pound Lady be... As I said this, both of them awkwardly nodded and chuckled. It's something Eliza would do. The next day, as I was preparing tea for Theodore and the others, What's this? My parents like pound cake. They won't eat the stuff. Eliza said that to me. Ah, Pound Lady. Eliza, I thought maybe we could switch things up a bit. I tried to choose my words carefully, not wanting to stir the pot, but she retorted, Talking back again. I've been here longer than anyone. I know this family best. As she tried to take the pudding I prepared, a voice said, Stop it. I turned to see Theodore and Grace standing there. We asked for this. Alethea did nothing wrong. Grace nodded in agreement next to him. Eliza's face turned bright red. But if you didn't like it, you should have just said so. Tears filled Eliza's eyes. We couldn't say anything because we knew you were kindly preparing tea for us every day since we retired, but having pound cake every day is too much. Eliza, her face still red, said, "Then do as you please. I won't prepare tea anymore." With that, she stormed off. Theodore and Grace could have gone to the shop themselves, but they were afraid of being seen and word getting back to Eliza. Eliza has been strong-willed since she moved in. We thought it was an odd match for our mild-mannered son, but we tolerated it because he chose her, Grace said with a troubled look. Both were delighted with Christina's pudding, especially Grace, who shed a tear saying, "She's grown up so well." From then on, I prepared the tea, making sure to vary it so no one would get bored. This incident worsened my relationship with Eliza. The tension spread throughout the house, making mealtimes as quiet as a funeral. Oscar, unable to bear it, suggested, "How about a family overnight trip on the shop's next day off?" "Great idea," Josh agreed, instantly lifting the mood. I glanced at Eliza, who seemed to agree, and even offered to handle the hotel arrangements. Everyone felt relieved, seeing Eliza in a slightly better mood. On the day of the trip, Eliza was more excited than anyone. It was the first time I'd seen her in such a good mood since I moved in. The hotel she booked was a famous luxury one, and I was excited too. Good, she does have normal emotions. "Alethea, could you accompany me to the front desk for a check-in?" Feeling uneasy at Eliza's sinister smile, I went with her to the front desk. "Reservation for 5? Did I hear that wrong?" "No, if there are 6 people." Before I could finish, Eliza cut me off. "Yes, that's correct. A reservation for 5. That's what Eliza, standing next to me, said. I didn't understand what she meant. By any count, there were 6 of us today. Huh. "Eliza, are you leaving?" When I said that, she glared at me and retorted, "Why would I leave? You're the one who should go." "Sorry, I don't understand what you mean." "That's because you're not family, you're just my son's wife. Got it? Now leave." She mocked me with her words. I was confused and, of course, angry. It was a low blow. And if she didn't want me here, she shouldn't have brought me in the first place. The front desk clerk looked uncomfortable, which made me feel even worse. Just then, "What? Really? Yay!" I turned around to see everyone else standing right behind us. Apparently, they'd come over because they were curious about what was going on at the front desk. The one who just cheered was Theodore. "If my grandson's wife is a stranger, then you're a stranger to us too. Sorry, but could you leave?" Eliza looked shocked, her eyes wide as she stared at Theodore. I was worried I wouldn't be able to hold back my laughter at this unexpected turn of events. "What are you saying? After all I've done for this family?" Grace, usually so mild-mannered, couldn't hold back anymore. "We've put up with a lot because you're the woman our son chose. But the main thing is," she paused, then said, "your face is scary, you know?" I couldn't hold back my laughter, and when I glanced at the front desk clerk, she was also struggling to contain her giggles. Eliza's makeup was unique, especially her eyebrows, which were always at a 45-degree angle, like a roller coaster. "What's going on?" Eliza was getting heated, so the hotel kindly provided us with a room. It was an awkward situation. Once we were seated, Theodore and Grace began lecturing Eliza about all the pent-up grievances they had. Apparently, Eliza had worked in the shop right after getting married, but was terrible at customer service. Her scary face and rude responses like, "What? I can't hear you, say it again," had made her unsuitable for the job. Theodore warned her each time, but Eliza seemed to get upset. Oscar had apparently become infamous for marrying such a woman. Still, Grace had always defended her, saying, "She's usually a good girl, just a bit shy." There was no way she could say something like, "I'm afraid of your face, so please don't go to the store," so she decided to ask her to do some housework. Fortunately, Eliza was also very thorough with her housework and seemed to be very involved in raising her son Josh. Josh, her son, whispered, "Yeah, my friends always said my mom looks scary," making me elbow him to stop making me laugh. Lately, sales had dropped significantly since Eliza started working in the shop again. People were yelling at Josh and Oscar in front of the store, and some people looked at me suspiciously and left without buying anything. "We're in the customer service business. Your attitude might be driving customers away. Can't you do something about it?" But Eliza simply retorted, "No, I can't." "Eliza, aren't you too strong-willed?" As I stood there in disbelief, Eliza glared at me and yelled, "Why is she okay and I am not? I don't get it." Feeling that Eliza would not calm down if I stayed, I said, "I'll go ahead and leave," and stood up. "I'm leaving too." "Me as well." "Of course, me too." Theodore, Grace, and Josh, her own son, also stood up. Frustrated, Eliza slammed her hand on the table and yelled, "Why?" Startled by the noise, Oscar, who had been silent until now, shouted, "Enough is enough." Eliza looked shocked, perhaps because Oscar had rarely ever raised his voice at her. "I can't take it anymore. Let's get a divorce." Oscar had reached his limit. Maybe Eliza was different before they got married. Maybe if they'd communicated better, things would have been different. But I think her bad attitude is probably innate. I don't think there is any understanding her. In the end, Oscar and Eliza decided to get a divorce, and she moved back to her parents' home. The trip was, of course, cancelled. Oscar paid the full amount for the hotel and deeply apologized, promising to stay there another time. On the day Eliza left, she kept saying, "If you hadn't come, everything would have been fine." But I think someone would have reached their limit eventually, and the outcome would have been the same. Take care. I never understood your views on male superiority and female inferiority. Maybe you should look it up. That was the last thing I said to her. As one final act of revenge, I sent all of Eliza's belongings to her cash on delivery. Considering all the harassment I'd endured, this seemed fair. Years later, we were back at that hotel. Today was Oscar's second wedding. This time, the reservation was for 7 people. "I'm looking forward to dinner, Christina." Oscar's new wife was Christina, who owned the bakery next door. She had loved Oscar since childhood. She had decided never to return to our hometown after learning that Oscar had married. But she came back because she was worried about her father, Dave. When she found out Oscar was divorced, she didn't want to have any regrets. "I'm so happy Christina is my new mother-in-law." Who would have thought we'd become family with Dave? Theodore and Grace were also smiling happily. Dave, the father of the bride, was of course joining us on the trip. I wonder if I can finish my meal. Lately, I've been feeling something in my chest. As I said this with a wry smile, Christina whispered something in my ear. "It seems, the next time we come, we might need a reservation for 8. Thinking this, I took Christina's hand and walked back to our waiting family.